So the way that I chose to end my life was on the way to work every day, I would see this motorway that I'd be driving down. There was always this bridge there. I was going through every day looking at that bridge and thinking I could just end it here.
Wow.
Like I could just drive into that and then that's done. All the pain's gone. All the suffering's gone. And there was one day where it just got too much. And I just thought, this is the day. And I just drove head on into that bridge. No seatbelt. I thought that would be enough to end it all. And nothing. Just shattered glass all around me. I got up and I walked out of that car.
Wow.
And it was my dad that came to pick me up. And I'd never actually seen him express emotion like he did that day. The tears, the sadness that was flowing through him. And I think that made me realize that actually there's a life to live here.
Imagine carrying the weight of expectations, silent struggles, and the pressure to always have it together. The Dad Project is a space for open, honest conversations about men's mental health. Raw, real, and long overdue. In season 2, we go deeper, sharing powerful stories and fresh perspectives from those who've lived it and those who help others through it. Filmed at the Old Court in Windsor, this season is about breaking stigmas, redefining strength, and starting conversations that matter. I'm your host, Naroop Juti. Let's talk. So Juggy, they call you the Indian body coach. It's quite a title, right? But before we get into all about your fitness journey, I want to know a little bit about you. How you grew up, what made you the man that I see in front of me now?
I'm the youngest of 3, and I think my brother and sister would probably say that's true in terms of the way that I behave. Very driven, very focused. I've got an incredible young family myself, been married for 12 years and 2 kids, age 6 and 9. So anyone with kids know what that age is like. Very full on, but very rewarding as well.
Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about the experiences you went through and why you decided to pursue a career in fitness.
Childhood was interesting, I would say. I think, to be honest, it's a very typical childhood. It was very disciplined at home. Like you had to be at a certain standard, at a certain level, whether that was academically, whether it was how your room looked, how tidy things were, how you presented yourself. Like there were certain standards that you had to be at. And I think that was a positive for me, as well as sometimes having a bit of a drawback in terms of my self-worth, self-esteem. It was positive in many ways because I lean on what I learned back then to be the man that I am today. But I think I've also used some of the things that I experienced at that age to shape the way that I parent my children.
So before we get on to talk about your beautiful sons, I heard a story that you shared when I was at a men's mental health event where I first met you. And you told me you tried to commit suicide. And being in the audience and hearing you be so open about that moment, I was fascinated as to what happened to you at such a young age to make you feel like, I've had enough, I can't do this anymore. Tell me about that journey. Tell me about why you felt you wanted to give it all up.
If I'm completely honest, man, it didn't feel like I was giving up a lot at that time because I felt like I'd whittled away a lot of the relationships that were important to me. And through various challenges, I'd just got to this point where I was in the deepest, darkest hole. And, you know, we hear a lot about depression these days, and you'll see people saying they've had a bad day, they're feeling depressed. But actual depression is the way that I was feeling back then, where every single day I would wake up and it just felt like there's this black cloud hanging over me. Every single day it felt like guilt, shame, worry, this constant anxiety just building and growing up inside me. And that came out in every conversation that I had. And I genuinely felt like I'd pushed everybody away to the point that there was no point in me being here anymore. Life felt pretty worthless. And I had a big vision for who I thought I would be when I was younger. As a kid growing up, I had a huge vision.
What was the vision?
I'll be honest, it's what I'm doing today. It's the man that I've become today. And I still have a big vision, much bigger vision than the one that we're currently living in this current reality. But at that point, I felt so far away from even being able to take that first step towards it. I just couldn't see the value in my life anymore.
What was it that was making you feel so depressed? Did something happen?
Numerous things, man. Numerous things. It was almost an initial impact of losing my Baba, who was
being a granddad.
Yeah,
in
my
Punjabi.
granddad, and like he lived down the road from us all of our life. He's very independent, very like even the day that he passed away, he was in the garden doing the gardening, and he was very prim and proper. Like his rose bushes are still there to this day, and they still grow so beautifully because of what he did in terms of tending them, looking after them, and losing him kind of out of the blue felt like such a chasm for me. Like that was somebody that I could have a great laugh with, who would give me such great advice that I looked up to in so many ways because of think about that generation and what they gave up to be in this country here today, to give us the opportunities that we've got today. He meant so much to me, and then losing him just like that put me in a massive dark hole.
I know how you feel because my granddad, for me, was exactly the same. So I had all four of my grandparents alive until I was 30. That's a massive privilege.
Yeah, man.
And so when my granddad passed away, again, same thing, prim and proper. He was cutting a melon, and he liked to do that in the evening, prepare the fruit for the family, for their dessert. I went to go and pick up mum from work. And on the way back, it was actually Amit, my business partner, who called me and said, "Are you at home?" And I said, "No, why, what's up?" And I remember I was at the traffic lights, and I remember exactly what set of traffic lights. I know exactly where I was. I said, "No, I'm not at home." Why? He goes, "Granddad's had a stroke." And I was like, "What?" And his mum's next to me. So now I'm booting it to try to get home.
Yeah.
Turn the corner, outside the house, 2 ambulances. Out of the front of the house, my granddad's on a stretcher, going into the ambulance. Dude, I felt like my whole life.
Yeah, man.
Massive, massive shock, because I'd never experienced a death in the family, a close death. He didn't die that day, but a couple of days later he did.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. And for me, for 6 months, I was finished. Anywhere I could imagine where he used to sit would make me cry. It was difficult. So I totally can relate to that feeling. In Indian culture, our grandparents are like our parents, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And we rely so much on them to teach us wisdom that maybe our parents can't teach us because the relationship is different. Parents are there to tell you off, to guide you a little bit, but grandparents are just all love.
100%, man.
Because now they're living for us, aren't they, really? That's their purpose. They're living for the grandkids,
Do you know what I think as well, from the grandparents' perspective is they probably learned from their mistakes too, because they're at that age where the wisdom is set in. They know, could have probably done that a bit better. And then we come along as grandchildren and they're like, okay, this is how I want that relationship to be. And it was like a best friend's relationship. Like I would go around the house and he'd have teletext on and he'd be going for the United scores and all that sort of stuff. And, I remember as a kid, he would always take us to town on our days off, always take us to the city centre and buy us like a rubber or a sharpener or some crayons or something like that. And that was just his way of showing that love and affection. And it wasn't about the things that he was buying. It was about the experience that you had going on the bus with him or getting in his really nice, again, pristine car, the way he looked after it. So it was just that full connection of like, this is a best friend as well as somebody that I look up to and I really respect and admire. And to see that just gone. And then also, I'll be honest, looking at how everybody else reacted to that, because I wasn't going to go home and have a conversation with my dad about how I felt or my mum about how I felt, even though my mum was probably much more open to the emotional side of it. You just kind of see everybody else around like, well, grab a bottle, we'll have a drink. push down the feelings. We'll have a bottle, have a drink. We'll feel better afterwards, have a bit of a laugh, talk about some memories. But for me, it didn't end there because that became my thing. So every time I got stressed, emotional, I felt that loss, I felt that grief, the bottle would be there again. And I was at university at that point too. So I just left to go to university. And that was the normal culture. You get hammered, you get wasted as a student. So it almost became like, well, actually, it's okay to do this because everybody else is doing this. And every single time I did it, I was losing a big part of myself. I was losing who I was. And honestly, I'd wake up every single morning just thinking, what is going on? What is happening here? And every single evening, I'd go and do the same thing again. So it wasn't 1 or 2 nights a week, man. It was every night. And then I was at that point where I didn't want to go home on the weekends. I was playing for a local team back where I live. And I didn't want to go home because I didn't want to face everyone. So I'd make excuses up on the Friday as to why I couldn't come home. So I could drink on the Saturday evening, the Sunday evening. And it was spiraling and spiraling.
At that moment, when you were going through that, was there anybody that you could talk to?
It's a really good question, man. And there probably was, but I probably couldn't see them. And maybe I wasn't ready to have conversations. But equally, man, I don't think there was anybody coming to me to say, seems like something's not quite right. And maybe it was just this illusion that I'd built up of myself that I'm just a party boy, like just go out, like to drink, like to have a good time. Because, bro, when I'm drinking, I'm out, I look like I'm having a great time. I look so confident. Like I look so sure of myself, so full of myself. So who would know the difference between somebody going through that and the illusion that I was presenting?
That's so true. That's a really interesting point. People who we think are confident on the outside are usually masking so much on the inside because it's just a front, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the most confident men are the men who don't need to do any of that. They don't need the tables and the flashy stuff. They're confident inside. And so it doesn't matter what people think of them. They know who they are. So going through that period, I'm really interested to know, when did you realize that you needed help to get out of this? What was keeping you fixed in that place? I think a lot of people don't realize either a way out or that they've got a problem.
Yeah.
So how did you handle that time period? Because obviously then your life dramatically changed.
Yeah. I was diagnosed with depression.
Right.
So clinical depression, you've got anxiety, you need to take medication. But I'm like late teens, early 20s. And you're going back quite a few years now. This gives my age away, man. I'm 37 now. So we're going back like 17 years, right? Who was talking about mental health and depression and anxiety back then? Who was on social media? It was like the year that Facebook came out, right? Who was on Facebook talking about serious issues like this? Who was brown that looked like me that was having this conversation? Nobody. So when you get told by a doctor sitting behind a desk saying, oh, you got depression, you got anxiety, we recommend you take this medication, we recommend that you speak to this psychologist, how could I accept that? I didn't know what it meant, first and foremost. And I didn't actually understand the impact that the alcohol and all those other things were having on my life. So it was down to me. I didn't accept it. I didn't accept that I needed help. And I didn't accept the diagnosis. But could there be maybe a little bit more education at that point, rather than just saying, here's a label, go away with this label, go and take it? I couldn't accept it, man. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that time period, mental health wasn't even a thing.
No.
Because I think we can all look back at our lives and think of some of the challenges we've faced and realize I was suffering, man. Like, I didn't have no idea how to deal with it, and no one was really saying anything. All it would be is maybe someone would say, don't worry, you'll be all right, And in Indian culture as well, your parents or your mum might say, just pray to God, you'll be okay. God's going to take care of you. And you're like, What? What do you mean? Like, is he sitting there thinking, Juggy's got a problem, Ruth's got a problem, I'm going to sort him out, or there's people around the world who are starving, and what he's going to think of me?
Yeah.
There just wasn't that conversation there.
No, man.
And I wish there was. So I think we would all maybe had an easier path, but then we wouldn't be who we are now, right, as well. Yeah. And I love the idea that you've taken your journey and your challenges and you've turned it into something so positive. So when you were going through that time period, I remember you saying you used to like drink a bottle of JD a day.
Yeah.
Right? What was the thing that made you think, okay, I want to change. I want to start now focusing on nutrition and health. And tell me a bit about that journey.
Bro, I was studying nutrition.
Okay.
I was studying nutrition at the time. And I think it's only upon reflection you understand, well, why are these things so important to you that I'm going to go to university and study a subject and obviously live a completely different lifestyle to what I was learning. And a big part of why I chose to do nutrition in the first place was when I was younger, my dad got diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And when he got diagnosed with it, everything in our household changed. The foods that we ate, how we spent our time. On the weekends, it wasn't about just sitting there watching TV. Suddenly we were going for bike rides, we were going for walks, we were going to the park, doing these different bits and pieces. And I saw the impact that had on his health. And I wanted to help him. But the whole reason for me to go to nutrition, study nutrition at university was, how can I help my dad? And then obviously as an extension of that over the years, I'm probably helping all the people that are just like my dad now. So he had high chronic stress. Why did he have high chronic stress? Because he was a provider. And as a provider, he'd gone from when I was born being a taxi driver all the way through to becoming a project manager and then a contractor. And they're very different lifestyles, right? So I'd seen everything that he'd done and he'd thrown everything at his career to give us a life that he never had grown up. So I'd seen how much sacrifice he's made as a human being to give to us as his children. And I wanted to have something that I could give back to him, which is, how can I help you improve your health?
Tell me about your relationship with your dad. Because when I heard your story of when you tried to commit suicide, it was what you said afterwards about what your dad did. And the connection you guys formed after that was so touching. And I'm sure it's had a massive impact in your life. But tell me about that.
Yeah. Do you know what? I have to tell the whole story to be able to make that make sense. But so the way that I chose to end it, and I think this is quite a difficult topic to talk about anyway, because there's certain phrases that you're not meant to use, but I'm just going to share it from my own perspective. So the way that I chose to end my life was jumped in my Vauxhall Corsa, this little tin box of a car, little go-kart of a car. And on the way to work every day, I would see this motorway that I'd be driving down. There was always this bridge there. And there was a piece of me. So I think that goes to show something about depression. I'm still going to work. I'm still showing up. I'm not missing a day. But I was going through every day looking at that bridge and thinking I could just end it here.
Wow.
Like I could just drive into that and then that's done. All the pain's gone. All the suffering's gone. And there was one day where it just got too much and there was just too much noise around everything. And I'd felt like I'd completely severed ties with everybody that was most important to me. And I just thought, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, but
of course,
bro, I just thought, fuck it. This is the day. And I just drove head on into that bridge. So as I went into it, took the seatbelt off and I could see it. I was over 110 and bro, I'm in a Vauxhall Corsa. I didn't know it could go that fast. I was pushing it and I drove straight into it, like head on collision. No seatbelt. I thought that would be enough to end it all. And nothing. Just shattered glass all around me. Must have banged my head at some point. Kind of just woke up a bit shocked. Like, I've still got all the scars on my hands now where the glass had kind of just penetrate through the skin. And nothing. Absolutely nothing wrong with me. I got up and I walked out of that car.
Wow.
Then I did get taken in to the police station and I got held there because obviously they've got questions, right? And it was my dad that came to pick me up. And I'd never actually seen him express emotion like he did that day. like the tears, the sadness that was flowing through him, and the way he embraced me, the way he hugged me. I've never seen that level of emotion from somebody like that, who's so stoic, man. He's so like, old school, traditional, doesn't show that stuff. And I think that made me realize that actually there's a life to live here. My life is worth living, and there's people that are there for me no matter what. He was there, my mum was there to help me rebuild my life.
That's a powerful story, bro. Thank you for sharing that. There's a couple of questions I want to ask you about that. Because when someone talks about choosing to end their life, and we hear stories of someone who jumped in front of a train, but yet they had an amazing job and they got 2 amazing kids. Why would they want to do that? Why would they want to do it? I have asked that question sometimes. Tell me in your mind how you were seeing the world, what lens you were seeing the world in that made you feel that this is it. I know you said it's a dark cloud, but tell me a little bit more about that. And then also the fact that you walked out of the car. That must have been like a sign that God saying, Juggy, not yet, mate.
Yeah.
You got a lot to do.
So true.
So it must have totally transformed you. And it's incredible how what you thought might end your life actually started your life.
Yeah, man.
Right?
It's exactly that, man.
So tell me about that, the thought, because I really want listeners to try to understand what goes into someone's mind when they feel like ending their life is the best option. And then I want to know what happened in your mind when your dad came to meet you. But that night when you went to bed and you closed your eyes, it must have been like, thank you, universe. Thank you, God. I wouldn't do that now. I want to live. Right? So tell me a bit about that.
The lens, I can't actually describe how difficult it is to wake up in the morning and just see grey, dark, black. Like that's what it was. And I think anybody that's gone through like real depression will completely understand what I mean by that. Like waking up and just thinking that everything's shit. Thinking that I was completely and utterly worthless. That all the dreams and all the aspirations that I had was just a dream. It was never going to happen. It was not tangible. Feeling like I'd broken everybody else around me because of my behavior. So this is the difficult thing, because these things happened a while ago, and I'm talking over a decade ago. The amount of responsibility that I now take over my life versus what I was becoming more and more of a victim to back then. And that sounds like a harsh thing to say about myself, but I do feel that back then things were happening to me rather than me actually saying that these happen for a reason. And when you see things as happening to you, when you see things you're the victim to a situation, then you will fall into depression. You will fall into anxiety. You will fall into that dark hole. And it's only now, having done so much work, man, year on year, even now, I'm still getting support. I'm still getting personal development mentors. I'm still getting support for how do I progress through the barriers that I've placed on my own life, right? But back then I wasn't doing any of that. I didn't even know any of that existed. Do you know what? Back then I thought a psychologist, all they did was, when I actually did speak to them, tick a box, tick a box. You're not going to kill yourself? Tick a box. Oh, you can go, but make sure you take your medication. That's what I thought help was. So that lens that I was looking at my life as was victim. Like I'm a victim. I'm never going to be successful. I'm never going to amount to anything. I'm always going to let people down. I'm always going to make people feel ashamed. So if I'm even talking about it from then, I'm talking about from what other people perceive of me rather than how I see myself.
When someone is suffering through depression and someone says to them, be happy, can't you see what you got in front of you? Right? Can't you see you live in this lovely house, you got great parents, you got this, that. Tell me why that doesn't work.
You don't see it, man. Like, you're not living a life of gratitude when you're going through depression. The two things are almost on separate ends of the spectrum. And even when you've got them, like I had a beautiful mom, beautiful dad, beautiful relationships with them. I had an incredible sister, incredible brother who were both very inspiring in their own right. But it didn't feel like I had them. I felt isolated and I felt alone. So you can have all these amazing things happening around you, but you don't feel you're connected to anything. you feel completely isolated and alone. That's how I felt.
What would you say to somebody who is currently going through depression, who is seeing the world grey? Based on your experiences and how you've come out, and now you're such a beacon of light for so many people, how can that person start to shine?
I think the hardest thing to do is acceptance. Like, there's a reason you feel the way you feel, and it's okay. There is a reason that you feel the way you feel, and it's okay. But I think the more we try and push down what we feel, the less connected we are to the feelings, the emotions, to the beliefs, and then the deeper the hole gets. So we just keep trying to show up and churn our way through the day and get things done and move forwards, but we're becoming more and more disconnected to ourselves. And I think a big part of that is actually not knowing what your values are, what's important to you as a human being. Because if you're not living towards those values, if you're not living towards what's important to you as a human being, then who are you doing it all for? Like, what's the point in life if you're not doing things that actually inspire you and connect with yourself? Like, what is the point?
I love that, man, because that really comes down to fundamentally what is happiness. We know how much of an impact suicide is having on men. It's like the leading killer of men, of young men. That everything that we're told to chase is never what our happiness is. And what you're saying is all in here, right? Happiness is a mindset. Happiness is a way of seeing, a way of being, your values. What do I stand for? Doing something that you feel is true to who you are, right? You found your path. And we'll start to talk about now your amazing journey as an Indian body coach. You found your path. How does someone find their path?
So the thing is about depression, anxiety, all these things, because now we see it so much more on social media, it doesn't mean that it's accepted anymore in our culture and in our communities. So I think sometimes we see it and it's an interesting story and we engage with it because we're like, oh, that's interesting that that's happened to that person, but it would never happen to me. So there's almost, you're separating yourself from the story. And I think the difficult thing with our community is accepting that these things actually happen to us. When I first shared my journey, and I was on TV at the time, I talked it through in terms of an interview. I said, this is what I've gone through. These are my experiences. And they're my experiences, right? If I've gone through this and I'm having a difficult day, it doesn't mean it's got anything to do with you. It's me. This is what I've gone through. But when I first shared that I went through depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, alcohol abuse, when I talked about that, I became more isolated because all the people that I went to uni with, all the people that I was close to at that time, completely separated, stopped talking to me.
How old were you when you shared this story?
I was, so we'd been married for maybe me and my wife had been married for about 3-4 years, maybe about 3 years. So I was about 25.
And had you come out of that alcohol phase?
Yeah.
So even though you were on the mend, married, they just cut ties with you?
I'd gone through such an evolution at that point as to who I was and why I behaved the way I behave and all of that self-development. And that's what gave me the confidence to actually go out and talk about these things, because my whole point of being the Indian body coach is these are the things that I've gone through and I want to give back to our community to make sure that other people don't go through what I did and go through it alone. And that's why I had the courage to talk about my journey on TV and share so openly. And I'd evolved so much as a human being at that point. And I don't know, maybe that scared them. Maybe they felt that it was in some way connected to them. Maybe they felt that me having these ailments and these issues would reflect upon them. And maybe they weren't ready to accept that. In no way what I went through reflects on other people around me. These were my experiences and they were driven by the challenges that I was facing as a human being. And if anything, man, I needed help at that point. I needed somebody to come forwards and say, I didn't know you were going through that, but I'm glad you shared. And I didn't get any of that, man.
How did you move past that then? How did you come to peace with that?
Honestly speaking, it's just radical acceptance. Like, I just accepted it. It doesn't matter to me now. Like, I know who is significant to me. I know who I can be myself with. And I know the impact that I can have on the world. And if you're not with me, then I'm not bothered. Like, that's just how I feel.
Have you forgiven those people in your heart?
Yeah, but again, nothing to forgive, because I think that that's their journey. That maybe they had things that they were working through that they weren't ready to face. Maybe they just didn't know how to deal with it, which is fair enough. So it's not for me to judge.
That's so interesting, because I would have thought, like you said, the opposite. But maybe we are 12 years down the line from that point, and society has changed, where when you share your story and your vulnerabilities, it actually tends to draw people in now. Because I know through doing this podcast, the messages I get from people saying, it's so great that you're open, that your guests are so open. It actually starts to build a community where someone else can say, oh, I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
But it seems like your friends at that time were thinking, let's leave that guy, because it's clearly he's going through something, which must have hurt. I mean, if I didn't have my friends when I was going through my challenges and they isolated me, it would have made my journey that much more difficult. But kudos to you, bro, for being able to push through that time. And obviously you got just see your wife, who I believe and I know must have supported you so much through that,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about your relationship with you and Jussie. I think it's a beautiful way to start talking about the impact she's had on your life.
Yeah, I think it's joint in terms of, I know what she was going through when we met, and I was able to support her with some of the challenges that she was facing. And she's always my rock. She always sees the best in me. So even to this day, she will say, you're undervaluing yourself here. Like, you need to ask for your worth. You need to actually push yourself out of those comfort zones. And she's always given me that challenge. But in the same way that she's also given me this realization that there's more to life than work.
Why is that important to you as a man, to have your wife say that? Because I think sometimes people don't talk about that enough. That a woman can reflect a side of you that you may not see.
It's belief, isn't it? Belief in potential. So if somebody's got a belief in your potential that you can't see, then you will start to notice where you're actually pulling yourself back, holding yourself back, or not asking for your worth. So if you're in a relationship where somebody's not actually acknowledging how powerful you are, then you're always going to hold yourself back from what you could truly be, your true potential.
What is your true potential?
I've got a dream. Every dream that I've ever had has come to reality. And not always in the time frame that I wanted to happen, but it's always happened. When I was younger, I wanted to be married at 24. I wanted to have my first kid at 26. I wanted to live in my own house by like 28. I wanted to move to the countryside. I wanted to drive a BMW. And all so some of those things may seem quite material. But all of those things happened exactly when I wanted them to happen. All of those things came to be. But it wasn't just by myself. I did it as a partnership with Jussie. And I think that was the most important thing, is I couldn't have done any of those things by myself, right? I had to have somebody with me that also believed in that journey. Now, the vision going forwards, man, I want to do what I'm doing, but on a massive scale. I want to help people all around the world. I want to stand on a stage one day with thousands of people in the audience and share my journey just as I have with you today, and share how to overcome the challenges, how to become more connected to yourself, how to live a more value-driven life, how to live a life of fulfillment, and accept that happiness is transient. You're going to be happy some days, you're going to be sad some days, but when you've got your North Star and you know exactly what you want your life to look like, everything is towards that goal. Anything that takes you away from it, you're able to push aside. Anybody that takes you away from that, you're able to push aside.
That's a big dream. And I think I can see you doing that, because you definitely have presence and you are an inspiration. How, when you started on your journey as the Indian body coach, how did you think that was going to turn out? And do you think by you helping people to get in better shape is your way to help fulfill that dream you said? Or do you see yourself being a motivational speaker and inspiration as a separate thing? Or are they both intertwined?
I think everything's intertwined, but just I laughed then because when you said, when it all started out, bro, I was driving from here to there, everywhere, gym sessions, free gym sessions, putting on these boot camps, these classes, There's, Facebook memories pops up, yeah. And it's like Flexi Fit. I used to run a class called Flexi Fit, and it was at like a local community center, and I'd have like 2 people turn up. And that's what it was. I was just trying to get as much of my name out there as possible. And I was just doing anything that it took. I was losing money putting these classes on. And that's what it was. I had people that wanted me to train them in their house, and I was charging like £7.50, and I thought I was winning because it was probably slightly above minimum wage. Yeah. But I hadn't factored in as a businessman the fuel to get there, all the equipment that I had to buy to train them. That's what it was, man. I didn't have any belief that I could actually even do what I'm doing today. It was just a dream. But with anything, you've got to start. And that's where I started from.
I've got a similar story where Amit and I, when we started in photography, we did a shoot for a music artist who was signed to Island Records. And we went in for a meeting, and it was a boardroom, and there was like 5 people on that side, and we thought we had made it. So we sat around the table, and they said to us, okay, how much are you going to charge for this shoot? And Amit and I thought, okay, we're going to go big. We said £300. And it's like their jaws dropped because they were probably expecting 10 times that. But we didn't know. In our mind, it's 300 quid. But then you don't factor in all the other stuff that comes with it, right? But we quickly learned that actually we're worth a lot more than this. Yeah. But you've got to do that hustle, don't you? Yeah. You've got to make those mistakes. It's all part of the fun journey of creating what you have now, right?
Exactly.
How do you help people now? Is it still these personal classes, or is it, because I see on your Instagram, you've got a great following. I see all the success stories. I see how much weight people have lost, how much muscle people have gained. How do you help people? Tell me a little bit about your business.
Yeah, you asked the great question in terms of like other things, separate entities. So is being a motivational speaker, being inspiring with your own journey, and then the physical successes that people see. And I think we just live in a bit of a world now where people are more inspired by the physical, which is why you'll see me share a lot of the physical results of the program that we offer. Because people can be like, oh yeah, it's 30 kilograms. I can connect to that number. That's a big number. Maybe he's good at what he does. But the things that we do to get to that point, it's never just about, can you eat better? Can you train more? Can you move more? Can you sleep better? Most of the things that people need to do, they already know that they need to do it. So for me, it's always uncovering, well, why don't you see yourself as important enough to look after? Why are we having to use words like discipline to talk about self-care? Why is it discipline to eat well? Why is it discipline to train and move your body? Isn't that not just loving yourself, showing yourself something, showing yourself that you're worthy of these things?
I love that, and I agree on all those points, because I always say to men, when they want to make a journey of self-improvement, the first thing is to be proud of the man that they look at in the mirror in the morning, right? And that is physical. Like, most men want to be in good shape. Not saying they want to be a bodybuilder, but they probably want to look at themselves and think, look all right, innit? Yeah. Like, you've got a bit of muscle. So I tend to say, go to the gym. Like, be your own best friend, right? What stops someone from doing that? What makes people not love themselves enough to not even think that, I should try to sort this out a bit? Like, what is the block?
There's so many blocks, man. And this is why I don't coach generically. Everybody we work with is a one-to-one. Everybody that we work with has access to a psychologist, has access to nutrition support, training, injury rehab, functional medicine practitioner will also review all of your blood tests and make sure that the whole package is looked at before we even think about putting a plan in place. But within that, you start to see what the real blockers are. So you might say, I look at my dad, for example, when he got diagnosed with that autoimmune condition, he wasn't eating well. He wasn't sleeping well. He was driving 6-7 hours a day. The place that he worked was at least 3 hours in good traffic away from where we lived. And he was doing it. Why? Because he wanted to give us opportunities. He wanted to be the provider to give us the opportunities. And he was willing to sacrifice himself to do that. Now, that's a mentality within that generation that our generation still haven't realized is harming us. So we become so trapped in this view of what we should be that we forget what we need to be for ourselves. That's one of the biggest challenges. But then you look at food. Like, people know that eating too much sugar and donuts, jalebi, whatever it might be, right, is not the ideal thing for their health. But it's probably one of the most socially accepted soothing mechanisms for stress, for emotions, for having a difficult day. You're not always going to go and pick out the bottle and have a drink. You'll have a donut, you'll have some crisps, you'll have some chocolate, and nobody's going to say a word. Do you know when people say the most about your weight? Is when you lose it. What's happened to you? You've lost so much weight. Are you okay? Is your health okay? You weren't asking that when he was 20, 30 kilograms heavier. And it's just interesting, the cultural perception of what health is and why you make these decisions. The support that we need is always facilitated by the people that are closest to us. Not everybody wants to see you evolve and progress and change and transform. Some people just want you as you are.
Wow, there's so many questions I could ask off the back of that answer. First one I want to ask is, why do people want you to stay as you are? And the second thing is, how have your clients changed mentally with their mental health as they've got healthier and healthier? Have you noticed a correlation between physical health and mental health?
Yeah, man. Everything is interlinked. Physical, physiological, psychological. This is why we've got the 3 tenets of our coaching program, is those 3 areas. And they all work simultaneously. If you work on one, it will impact the other. If you work on that, it will impact the other. And it goes around in this virtuous circle. But why do people want you to stay as you are? Because for one aspect of it is they don't want you to feel more stress. So they will say, don't push yourself too much. You've had a difficult day. You've had a difficult week. Have this food on the weekend. Have this drink on the weekend. Relax, calm yourself down. But that's because they don't realize what your true potential is. And it's not a negative. And this is where I say personal responsibility is so important, because it's up to you to then push back and say, no, this is important to me, and this is what I'm going to do. The other thing is, if you're trying to change, then sometimes that doesn't always reflect well on them. If they're not ready to change, if they're not ready to outgrow themselves. So if they see you doing all this, it feels like a threat to them, as opposed to something to actually celebrate and acknowledge. And another reason why people don't like you changing is, imagine you want to go and exercise in the morning, but then you've also got to take the kids to their football practice. So how are you going to fit all these things in? What are you going to sacrifice? You're going to sacrifice the first couple of hours where you're normally having your tea and biscuits and watching TV before you take the kids out, which is your couple's time, which is your family time. I think that's worth sacrificing if you feel you're going to get a benefit from it. If it's going to give you more energy, if it's going to allow you to cognitively process things better, be more emotionally regulated. So later in the day, you're not feeling stress and emotion, you're actually connecting with the family. So for us, it's important to communicate, why do I want to make this change? If I want to make a change and I want to transform myself, but I don't talk to Jussie about it, then I'm going on this journey, she's going on this journey, and we're suddenly going in separate directions. But if I communicate it effectively, we work together and we make it happen. But in that, you start to see that the choices that you're making for your physical well-being, your nutrition, your sleep, your energy, it's physical because you're going to see those changes as a byproduct. You're going to start to see yourself lose weight. You're going to start to see yourself build muscle. But you're also going to be a much calmer, cooler person to be around. You're going to be that energetic person that they probably got married to, right? I was speaking to one of our clients that came to the event, the men's mental health event, and he said, it feels like what I was like when we first got married with my wife. Wow. Like I'm laughing, I'm joking again, I'm more myself again. Like I'm the man that she married. And the kids that are going to benefit from that. Like the relationship grows. He goes out for a run, his son joins him. He takes his son to football practice, he's the only parent running around, getting some steps in, getting some cardio in. It's just incredible to see how closer you become to the people that you love and you care about the most when you actually start to live towards your values.
Man, you're saying things that I always say to people, and I love hearing it, because one of my drivers to help men is that you're not just helping a man, are you? You're helping the whole family. You're helping the relationship. You're helping the children. And what more beautiful gift can you give to a person? Why do you want to help people? Is your desire to help a way for you to maybe heal from the challenges that you went through?
Everything I've designed within my program, every member of team, every support system, every tool that we develop would have helped me when I was going through depression, going through anxiety. If I knew that this existed back then, it would make so much sense to do it. The thing that would have probably stopped me is I'd probably been scared to invest in myself, which is what I see a lot of these days. People are scared to invest in themselves. They don't believe in themselves. They come into me from a place of low confidence, so they're not always willing to take that extra step towards it. But 100%, man, so much of what I do is to make sure that other people don't go through what I experienced.
But why do you care?
So going back to stepping outside that Corsa, bloodied hands and all that sort of stuff, but being able to walk, this is my purpose. This is why I'm still here today. This is a true belief of mine, is the reason I didn't die that night is because this is exactly what I was meant to be doing today.
I believe you, man. I really do, because that's what I connected with you on the stage. And your podcast is called Pain and Purpose?
Pain to Purpose, yeah.
Pain to Purpose.
Yeah.
There's nothing more powerful than when someone changes their pain into purpose. You can't stop that person. You cannot stop them because they're on a mission, and they will do everything they can to achieve their goal. And they become better people, the kindest people, the most emotionally open and the most caring. So well done, man. I'm proud of you, bro. I mean, I've only known you literally a few days, but it's here, the energy, I can feel it. And it's totally in line with how I see the world. I want to talk to you about being a dad. I can imagine your boys look at you and think, superhero, that's my superhero, because like you're strong and you're in great shape, but you're also kind and caring and loving, right? And fathers of our generation weren't all of those things. There were some of them, but they weren't all of them. So tell me about your relationship with your boys, how you're raising them, and the kind of men that you want them to become.
I wish you brought Jussie in for this bit, because it's difficult for me to say this is what the relationship with the boys is, because I'm speaking from my perspective. But I feel we're really close, and I feel that we have really open, honest discussions. They're 9 and 6. So look, they're not going to be talking about the deepest things ever, but the 9-year-old certainly is having more open conversations with me now than he would have previously. Very much on a one-to-one basis. Like, we always have some separate time with them, and that's where they really open up and they'll have a deeper conversation. But I say things to the kids sometimes and I'm thinking, this isn't going to register until you're older. Like, I'm going into all this deep stuff. We were talking about the chances of being alive, right? Like, think about all of the things that had to happen for us to be here today, and the 1,000,000,000,000 odds that we've got of actually being born, the way we look, the way our appearance, our eyes, our ears and nose, everything. Like, think about what had to happen for us to be exactly who we are today. And then the eldest was like, "Daddy, it's bedtime." But he got it. He understood. And I think that was such an important little moment. We talk about discipline now, freedom later. Like, this thought process of, we put in the hard work, it's going to give us a reward of freedom. It's going to give us the opportunity to do the things we want to do. So we do have these deeper discussions. But a really good conversation I had with my son the other day was, do you think you'd be that into football now if I wasn't into football? And he was like, actually, no, I think because he plays rugby at school or hockey and cricket, he doesn't play football. So he was like, wow, why am I into football so much? And I was like, if Daddy got up in the morning and just put the TV on and ate snacks and crisps or whatever, every time the game was on, we had beers out, do you think that would be normal behavior? And he said, yeah, but we don't do that. And I said, what does Daddy do? He goes, you either in the gym, or you're going for a walk, or he sees me journaling, or I'm reading, or I'm going to work in the office. Like, he knows what my routine and my schedule is. And I think that's the power of our relationships with the kids that we don't always recognize. We are the ultimate role models to them. We're shaping how they perceive life as they go forwards. And I'm not perfect. There's things that me and Juggy were talking about recently. How do we reduce tech time? Like, I have my phone on me. I have two phones. I have my work phone. I have my personal phone. And they could be both pinging off simultaneously. And it's how do we start to protect that time so this technology is not actually interfering with what they see as actual communication. So when we're at the dinner table, I don't want tech. When we're sitting around and actually just chilling together, I don't want tech. We go outside and we play board games. You know, when we go for meals, we'll go to a restaurant, we take books with each other, we take our little games like Connect 4 and stuff like that, because I don't want tech at those tables. And I'm still improving on that, still work to do, but I think we're getting better. And I think that's the most important thing you can be, is constantly striving to improve.
That's really interesting, because I'm actually noticing a change where, as AI is the buzzword, I actually think people are slowly realizing that tech isn't healthy, and then moving back to a state of being connected. Because I see a world where AI will do everything for you, but AI will isolate you. And so as AI makes your life easier, it actually makes you a bit more depressed, because you're questioning your worth. Well, I can't even do that. I don't need to do that. A robot will do this. And what you really want is the basics, human connection. Yeah. I want to be around some people. I want to talk about something. Like, how can AI ever replicate this here now?
This is the thing. So on the back of our program, we've built an incredible community, and we'll have community events. Like, we'll just get together. I might hire a gym out, so we've got that space to actually exercise together and do a few bits and pieces. Like, I run an event called Pain to Purpose every year where we raise for different charities. So we'll go and climb a mountain and we'll do all these things with our clients. But the whole point is, you can't do that online. You can't do that in front of a desktop, a laptop, on your phone. You have to be around people. One of the scariest things one of my clients said the other day, he runs a whole bunch of pharmacies, and he was talking about AI and the impact it's going to have. And people are going to be wearing these VR masks and coming in and requesting medication. So you're never actually going to step foot and be close to each other. And he was even saying this is going to be a game changer in terms of his financials, but this is going to completely ruin society. And it's scary. And this is why finding your tribe, finding your community, having honest, open conversations with each other is more important now than ever.
I love that, man. What's something that you think is really important about yourself or your journey that we haven't discussed yet?
I actually don't know, man. I actually don't know. I think we've talked about some really, really important topics today. I think we've talked about things that have shaped me. I think for me, there's gratitude. Like, I've got a lot of people to be grateful to. And I wouldn't be who I am today without people that I've interacted with throughout my life at different moments. Whether it's mentors, whether it's my wife, whether it's my kids, whether it's my mom and dad. There's so many people that have helped me in big ways and small ways that have led me to be the man that I am today. So I can't go around and say thank you to every single person, but just trust me that there's immense gratitude. And I think with that immense gratitude, I become more accepting of challenges, of the rocky road that's in front of me to get me to where I want to be. But I think if all of us could actually start to embrace the power of gratitude, I think we'd all be in a much better place.
I love that, man. I think that's such an important mindset. I've actually done this thing at home now where I printed out just on A4 paper and I laminated it. Gratitude, abundance. And I've put it in places where I know I spend some time. So one is right in front of the ironing board on the wall in the morning. Gratitude, abundance. Near the TV on the side, gratitude, abundance. On the side of my mirror in the bathroom, gratitude, abundance. Right? On my phone, I've got a screensaver. Think what you want to become, because your thoughts are going to end up making you who you are. So this idea of gratitude is so important. I think as I'm going on this journey of building this organization, my social network is changing. And men like you are naturally starting to come into my life.
Yeah.
Because we're meeting at events like-minded. And I'm grateful that I feel I am now building a tribe of people around me who are very aligned with how I see the world. There's nothing more lonely than knowing the people that are around you see the world in a different way than you do. And I think that's a case in a lot of times with men especially. They feel stuck because they might have elevated, but their friends haven't. Which is why I think it's so important for men to meet up in groups, for there to be men meet up groups. I'm sure you find that with your groups that you create through your organization, that they end up becoming really good mates, all these people. Man. Oh, how long have you been on the plan for? Oh yeah, how much weight did you lose? Or how much muscle have you put on? But there's so much common ground there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful service you're doing. And on top of helping these people one-to-one, you're creating a whole new network for these people to be around. And I think people maybe don't realize that some people aren't meant to be in their life forever.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you disconnect from them totally, but think about who you want to spend your time with.
Yeah.
So in closing, I'd like to ask you one last question. You've been through a lot. You've done a lot and you've achieved a lot at still a young age. I can see you feel fulfilled on a lot of levels. You speak so proudly about your family, which is beautiful to hear. You got thriving business. You got big ambitions, big goals. How does Juggy want to be remembered?
The legacy. I was actually thinking about this the other day because every quarter I start to consider what is the impact that I'm having and where are the things that I'm not actually pursuing, what's stopping me from pursuing these things. And if there's one thing that I want to be remembered for, it's facilitating transformation. And I'm not talking about the before and after photos. I'm specifically talking about the ripple effect that being healthier, fitter, stronger mentally and physically will have on the people around you. And that's what I want to be known for. I want to be the go-to guy for facilitating a real transformation from within. And I think if I go back and look at the conversations that I've had with the people that I've supported over the years, and even 3-4 years on, they're still living the lifestyle. They're thriving. Their businesses are thriving. Their family life is thriving. Their communities are thriving. That's what I want to be remembered for.
Oh man, that's beautiful. And to know that you're already having that impact now is powerful, man. So proud of you, like I said, and I know your family are proud of you too, man. Thank you so much, Bob, for the time you've given me and for inspiring so many people already and so many people that will hear this podcast. Appreciate it, bro.
I just want to say this, if you don't mind. Like, you stepped towards the environment that we met at the other day. And I think it's really, really important to just remember in yourself the impact that you're having from the message. And again, your pain has led to this purpose. And I can see the transformation. Like, I went through the Instagram the other day and I was looking at the different comments that people were sharing underneath some of the videos. And you see that these are the conversations that are not being had face to face, but people have got the confidence to put a comment under a post, and it shows that they're driven and they're actually empowered by the work that you're doing. So I want to express gratitude to you for even thinking of this platform and bringing me onto it. Honestly, I'm so honored.
Thank you, bro. That really does mean a lot. And each comment someone leaves is further validation that this is needed. And I think as humans, we always question our worth. Like, am I crazy for doing this? Like, does anyone believe in me? But what I feel so grateful to the universe for is that it's constantly giving me signs to say, yep, Narup, this is it, man. This is it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And I feel honored that I can do this and I meet great people and I've got a great team to be able to do this and just to help people. Like you said, man, as you're helping people in your journey, you're healing part of what happened, and you don't want anyone to feel what you felt. It's exactly the same thing for me. So thank you for that, but that means a lot. And thank you again for coming on.
Appreciate it, brother.